Folks, it's the brunt of the NFL offseason. Look, draft season's right around the corner. Or actually, draft season's here. The draft's right around the corner, excuse me. But for this episode, the theme and the title is Who Says Rivals Can't Be Friends? If you can see by his hat, I'm joined once again by, I'm going to call him the YWC Football Talks Bills correspondent because he is the biggest Bills fan that I know. It's his job. He's literally the voice of Buffalo. Joe Miller, the third, is back on. We're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff, but first I got to ask you, Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's as much as, yes, this seems like the what's the word, the bottom basement of the offseason. It's not, because we have the draft. It's that July 15th to, or I'm sorry, June 15th to July 27th when there's nothing going on. Like that to me is and I find myself in that moment wishing the summer away. So I've had to teach myself not to, but yes, it can get pretty dark as far as content wise, but the draft is coming up, as you said. So looking forward to that, but I'm doing great. Good to be here.
Yeah, exactly. Like I always say with that time of the year, if you're in the news, it's usually for the wrong reasons with the NFL. So that's exactly it. As soon as mini camp's done, before training camp,
yep,
all that fun stuff.
Yep.
Not fun, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
The one thing I got to get into right away, look, the Bills have had an exciting offseason. There's some moves that have been made. Some players have been brought in, notably Von Miller. But the biggest news of them all that has broken with the Bills is the fact that a new stadium, something I feel like Bills Mafia has been wanting for quite a while now, quite a few years, or probably more than a few years. But I've been seeing on Twitter through you, and I guess like with people, like when it shows you like the tweet, or like even it will show subject, it'll say Buffalo Bills, and you'll see people talking about the stadiums. I've even seen certain just like people within Erie County getting involved, because obviously there's the big disputes with like taxes and who's really paying for it, and the fact that there's the $850 million coming from taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
And when all this broke, I said to myself, I need to get you on here because I want to talk to you and get your thoughts about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let you leave the floor to kind of say like what are the pros for it, what are the cons for it, and overall, how do you feel about the fact that the new stadium is finally coming to fruition?
Well, the first misnomer is that the Mafia wanted a new stadium. I would say the football purists didn't. You've been to games in, I was going to call it the Ralph C. Wilson Stadium, which originally was Rich Stadium, then Ralph, then Ware Field, blah blah blah, and now it's Highmark Stadium. There's not a bad seat in that building. That from a pure, I'm going to watch a football game. That stadium, and I've been in a lot of stadiums, that stadium is dynamite and still is. The problem is it's not modernized. It can't be upgraded. What people don't realize about the old stadium, and you do because you've been there, and you might have been surprised, it's 50 feet in the ground. So when you walk up, all you see are the upper decks. And the amount of people that I've driven by the stadium in my lifetime and been like, oh, it looks much bigger on TV. And it's like, well, that's because you're only seeing the upper decks. The bowl is like in the ground. So because of that, it was impossible to expand the concourses and do all that modernization stuff. But a lot of Bills football purists love that stadium and don't really want it to go away. However, it's 50 years old. I mean, there's not many stadiums left that are older than it. KC Stadium, Arrowhead opened in 73 as well, which, by the way, I was there for the AFC playoff game against the Bills and the Chiefs this past year. When you get down into the lower concourse area, now keep in mind, sorry, I'm off topic. I apologize. Keep in mind, Kansas City is cold and snowy and wet in the wintertime, just like Buffalo. When you get down in the lower concourse area and then you walk through the tunnel, like they put carpet down, like there was carpet on the floor. And it was real. I just remember walking through there going, how do they keep this carpet clean when it's snowing or if it's raining? Because it's still an outdoor stadium. Like it was just very, very strange. Sorry, I was turning my volume up. But anyways, getting back to our stadium, I apologize. So in regards to the new stadium, there's a lot of conversation around it, and it hasn't stopped. People are still posting articles and op-eds and just, opinion columns and stuff like that about how it's the worst stadium deal for a state or a county ever because they put $850 million in and blah, blah, blah. The reality is this: the Buffalo Bills aren't going anywhere for 34 years. They signed a 30-year lease, and they've got 4 years left before this stadium is actually going to be finished. So the Buffalo Bills are going to be around longer then I'm going to be alive, more than likely. I'm almost 50 years old. I'll be 49 this summer. The Bills are going to be here, and they're not going to go. So when you talk about why and anchor points and all the conversations, because my entire life, even when Jim Kelly was here, my entire life, it was always a conversation of not if the Bills were going to leave, it was when, because of Buffalo's a small market. And I could go down serious rabbit trails to prove why Buffalo is not a small market, to include you technically are in our market, even though you're not counted. Toronto has 5 million people in it. It's 90 minutes from Buffalo, and it's not counted in the Buffalo market, which is a giant joke. And that doesn't even talk about Rochester, which is 70 minutes on the, to the east of us, and they've got 1 million people over there. But the Buffalo market's so small. So anyways, the new stadium brings us the opportunity to keep the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, obviously, forever. For at least for me, forever, until probably I die, if not longer. Who knows what 30 years is going to look like, even if the last 30 years did go fast. So that's probably the biggest win. Now, as far as the tax money goes, so the county, as much as people are upset about it, the county kind of made out. So before, in the lease agreement, the county owned the stadium. The county owns the current Highmark Stadium. They're on the hook for everything. So they're on the hook for maintenance. They're on the hook to run it. They're on the hook to clean it. They're on the hook to upgrade it, blah, blah, blah. The county got out of it. So the county this time around put in their $200 million, I think, or whatever it was, or that they were supposed to put in. And the stadium now belongs, or will belong, to the state. And the state is putting in $650 million. That money, which now is interesting because there's kind of not some fighting, but there's some upset, ruffled feathers about that. That money literally came from, almost all of it came from the Senecas, because the Senecas have not been paying whatever their fair share is for having the rights to have casinos inside of Erie County and around New York State. And they finally collected, the state did, and basically just took that money, which was, I think, $553 million, and they said thank you, and just turned around and gave it to the Buffalo Bills. So when they say that, the taxpayers are paying, are we? I mean, right? I mean, I don't know that we are necessarily paying. Now, yes, there's going to be upgrades and things like that in the future that are going to have to be done, and there's maintenance and stuff like that. But the Bills are going to pay, a lease agreement and a lease fee for 30 years for that stadium. You're talking about, income tax on all the players' salaries, all the staff salaries. You're talking about all the merchandising. You're talking about, the shopping that goes on for the tailgating, everything that goes. There's all of these things that happen around stadiums. But because 3 or 4 guys came out with some study about how stadiums are bad investments for cities and states, and they should never do it, you can't have a conversation with anybody about it to get them to even understand. It's like, yeah, sure. They're going to make income tax on the players. It's going to be $20 million or $30 million this year. Right. This year. Well, what happens when the cap is $600 million? Yeah. They're going to make $60 million that year. And you're talking about, they paid $850 million 20 years ago. So I don't believe at all. And I've had a lot of difficult conversations about this with friends of mine who are much smarter than me. I don't believe that it's necessarily a bad investment when you talk about quality of life for citizens and residents around an area and things that kind of bring us together and unite us. The Bills leaving Buffalo would not be good for this area or this region. And that includes even some of the Canada region, the Rochester area. It just wouldn't be good. There's a lot that happens, and a lot that it's a college. This is a college area. I mean, it's not a college team, but this is a college team type of vibe. When the Bills are playing and the Bills are good, and you're about to see it, Griff. I know you're a Patriots fan, but in the heyday, in the early 90s, this place bled red, white, and blue. It was much like Ohio State. When you go to Columbus, Ohio, everybody is scarlet and gray. Everybody is like, there's not, other than the token Michigan fan here and there, for the most part, everybody down there is scarlet and gray. And that's how it's going to be here again for probably as long as Josh Allen is here. Like, it's going to be a long time. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one thing too. Cause look, I go down to Buffalo quite often. I can go to a Sabres game and you're going to see people in Bills gear. Yep. I could be down there in the brunch
or
of summer.
Bills players, or you're going to see Josh Allen at the game.
Exactly. I saw, Josh Allen was at the Bills game, Sabres game last week.
Yep.
The Let's Go Buffalo chant is something that carries over into Sabres games.
Yep.
I know I'm giving the example because, look, it's two bad worlds, but obviously because they're both on opposite ends of the spectrum. One's at the peak of the NFL, one's at the bottom tier of the NHL.
Getting better.
They are. And I give them credit for that.
Yeah.
My big thing with it, though, is from what I see is to what I was trying to get at. I've been told by friends up here who are Bills fans, like, look, don't wear Pat's gear down there at any time of the year because I know that, like the thing I was getting at, you could go down there in June or July, even in the days when the Bills were bad, and you would see gear year round and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I also come down there for wrestling shows whenever WWE runs the KeyBank Center. They were there last night. I didn't go, but front row, 2 guys in Josh Allen jerseys. And I'll give you a story. I have. I was down there the weekend. I know you were at this game, but I was down there the weekend when they were playing the Buccaneers in Tampa.
Yeah.
And I was at first I was at Paula's on the Sunday morning.
Paula's
there was
donuts.
A woman. Yep, great donuts.
$21 for a dozen of donuts. Wow.
I get my single and I'm good to go.
Gotcha.
There was a woman like just decked out in everything Bills, like hair, earrings, like full outfit. And then I go to Trader Joe's in Amherst and I see a guy scream "Go Bills" very aggressively at the cashier. So believe me, I know that how it's because that's the thing. You nailed it on the head when you said it's a college feel to it. Like everyone loyally bleeds like the colors of the mafia. I know the mafia. Sometimes they get a good rep, like they get a good rep a lot of times for the charitable work. There's a lot of the bads. I don't know if you call it bad, like the table jumping and that some of the how crazy a lot of the fans can get, but it's passion. I know it's a passionate fan base. Look, our teams are rivals, but I know you guys are passionate about your team, and that's what you want to see. And I completely agree with you. If the Bills were to leave Buffalo, it would be bad. I think you may have retweeted. It was a girl. I don't remember her name, but she literally just tweeted, I know the Bills will be in Buffalo for the next 30 years. And I think that's more or less, if you want to take the glass half full approach, look at it that way. The money will come and go. The cap's going to be crazy probably in the next 5 years, and hell, let it be 30. But you guys can know, look, we have our team. They're not going anywhere, and we have a quarterback who's hopefully going to lead us to the promised land one day, or at least you're always going to be in that conversation every year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the big part too, is it's all happening at the right time. So if this is happening when Tyrod Taylor's the quarterback, or if, Trent Edwards is the quarterback, I'm not too sure. I'm probably one of the JP Losman. I'm probably one of the guys that's like 850 million seems like a lot. but when you've got, the team that we have, the coaching staff we have, the front office that we have, and just the energy and, I mean, what's going on down there, the players that they're putting together and putting around each other, the community that's being built. And I know several of the players and have had heart-to-hearts with them just talking about that. Like, tell me about just, the vibe in the locker room and how tight are you guys and just all that kind of stuff. It's all happening at the right time. To know, there's not much else to say besides that. It's just happening at the right time.
Yeah, that's another good point too. It's like if this was the heyday of like when the Patriots were the Kings and the Bills were kind of like that mediocre team. Yeah, I could see where it's like, why are we doing this now? But look, it's just like, it's like the Seinfeld quote, more anything, more everything. That's because it's literally like, okay, we have a good team. We have our guy. We have our front office. We have our coaching staff. Now we're getting this, like what we're going to call a palace or cathedral in the sense of a place where everyone can go every Sunday. The only thing is, though, do you think the new stadium will potentially drive a lot of that, blue collar fan away just because it's increasing the price? Or do you think it's one thing that you think the team will still be manageable when it comes to, selling season tickets? And I know I've seen the premium seat license talk come up from time to time again with the new stadium as well.
That all remains to be seen. Right now there's a waiting list to become a Bills season ticket holder. And, clearly every new stadium that's been built in the last, I think 20 years has come with some variation of PSLs, private seat license, to include stadiums like the MetLife Stadium, which I think every seat in the stadium required a PSL. There's rumors that this stadium will as well require PSLs, and they could range anywhere from 1,000 to a seat, 1,000 a seat to 20,000, if not more, a seat. So I do know that from just conversations that I've had, and nothing is yet set in stone, between the 35s on the Buffalo Bills side are like in the lower bowl, which right now are normal seats, are all going to be club seats. So that's going to be considered a club area. And that's the place where they're talking about the seats being, $15,000, $20,000 for seat license. Other areas of the stadium that are premium. So my seats are in row 1 of the upper deck. So I sit in 313. I sit like right on the 27-yard line, row 1 of the upper deck on the visitor side. I think the estimates I've seen for mine are anywhere from 5,000 to 9,000 per seat, which is a big number, right? And then obviously as you get into other areas of the stadium, it's going to be in that probably 1,000, per seat range or something like that. This is all speculative. No information has come out. The Bills have come out and said that, yes, this is what we're thinking, but nothing is necessarily set in stone. The good news is they've also said to that they're going to offer financing. So I think 0 to 3 years, like no interest at all. I think they've got a 10-year plan, and they've got some other plans as well. So when you look at it that way, clearly how many people are going to be able to afford $20,000 seat licenses per seat? I don't know. I mean, Buffalo isn't exactly a rich town. There are wealthy people here. I live in Lakeview. So like Lakeview is in the south towns on the Hamburg runs all the way to the lake, and the township that's on the edge of the lake is Lakeview. And if you go down Old Lakeshore Road, there's a lot of mansions on the lake. So there's a lot of people in Buffalo that have money Are they all Bills fans, right? Are they all going to want to buy season tickets? Are there enough corporations to support a public seat or a personal seat license, a private seat license? I don't know. The Bills clearly have done some research and they're going to learn some things as well. The worst thing that could possibly happen is pricing this community out of the stadium. I think the Bills know that, because if you take, for lack of a better way of saying it, I was going to say the worst thing that could happen to this market as far as from a football game is turning it into Indianapolis, because I don't know if you've ever been to a game in Indianapolis. That's what it kind of happened there. It's a bunch of elites and they're not really invested in the game as far as that goes. Yes, there's fans there. I'm not saying that Indianapolis Colts people aren't fans, but they just changed the culture when the dome went away, when the RCA dome went away. I would more liken it to probably Toronto. It'd probably be more like the Bills playing in Toronto, where it's like, touchdown, yay. You know what I mean? It wasn't great because it just wasn't a great environment to watch a football game. So for one reason or another, but yeah. So I don't have solid information. I'm more worried about my seat getting moved. I've got a great seat. I don't want to sit with people in front of me. So I'm spoiled rotten. I've been in my seats since 1997. The tickets have been in my family since 76. We got reseated when they changed all the seats in the lower bowl to actual plastic seats. We got bumped. I want to be on the front row of the upper deck, provided the upper deck isn't, 1,000 feet in the air. So I'm more worried about that. I'm more worried about seniority and kind of getting bumped back 3, 4, 5 rows than I am the PSL right now. But if the PSL comes out and it's like $15,000, your boy might be watching the games from home.
And the only comparison I would make for that with the half-assed with the elitist crowd is more of the Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously, because if you watch one of those games where a lot of the lower bowl is corporation, it's a lot of suits after work and stuff like that. But I'm going to go back to the Sabres because it's an easy example. It's a blue-collar environment where, everyone's in a jersey, everyone's passionate. And with Bills, too, I always notice, too, in the lower bowls right now, it's not like, elite fans. You get a lot of the hardcore people, like there, I believe. Honestly, there's one guy that dresses like Elvis, or he has like a guitar with him.
Yeah, it's Bill Elvis,
Yeah, like he's always in the front row and stuff like that. That's my one. That would be a worry, though, where it's like, you don't want to remove those people just for – I feel like they're going to get the corporate sponsorships, but you know what I mean, where you still want to keep the fan experience.
Yeah, it's not just him. It's
to transition.
Bill's Elvis. I mean, Anthony from Pancho's Army is always down there. The chefs are down there. Like, there's so many characters along that front wall, which, by the way, I don't want to sit there. That's the worst place to watch a football game. It's on the front row of the first section, because you can't see anything. But yeah, that's a conversation for a different day.
Exactly. I'm just so curious about the stadium, because I feel like, too, when you're saying, like, the Ralphs is such a great place to watch a game. Last time I was there, you still had to piss in a trough, so it's been a while. But as for location, I kept trying to figure out, so are they just basically moving it to across the street from where the current one is?
Yeah, so I don't know when the last time you were here was, but they basically now block off Abbott Road. So they block off Abbott Road from Southwestern to 20A, which is where the Big Tree Inn is. That whole section is basically, you can't drive on it. And the stadium is on the the east side of Southwestern, right? I think that's because Southwestern is kind of weird the way that it rolls. They're literally going to put it on the opposite side of Abbott. So is what they're going to do, and then they'll knock the other one down. They'll probably just make that a parking lot, would be my guess.
Probably, and then I assume the training facility will just remain.
Who knows? Yeah, I don't know if it'll stay there, or I mean, it's just it's a giant shed is all it is. They might be able to move it, but the whole training facility is there. But I haven't seen details on any of that. Who knows? They could move it someplace else. They could move it to another part of town. I mean, who knows, right? So the Sabres don't train downtown. They train and do everything else up in Amherst. So.
No, they actually. I'm pretty sure they built a new arena down like.
No, they have the arena down there, but their training facility, if I'm not mistaken, is in Amherst. I could be wrong, but yeah.
Oh, I just know there's a new rink right across the street from the arena when they built all that up. But you probably know better than me.
Harbor Center, right?
Yes,
Harbor Center. Yeah, but I don't know if they practice there or not. But yeah, I could be wrong.
Not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But I was looking at other reports too, and even this goes to the point with like my fiance, where she doesn't know a whole, like she knows Buffalo, like from when we go down there, but
right.
Even too, like I told her how there was a plan to build it in downtown, and she right away was like, "Where the hell are they going to put it?" I'm more than anything, I think about it. Like I even saw the Niagara Falls plans. I think the fact that you're staying in Orchard Park, I think matters more than anything. Just because, and also too, I thought from when I went to Orchard Park too, it's actually closer to Buffalo than I thought. It's not crazy far. You were right. You told me this I think a year ago or so, we were like, everything's 20 minutes from each other. And you were like, you're right. You're right. So that's good to know. So basically, though, just back to the stadium. So basically, my reference point would be the parking, like not the parking garage, the team store. So basically, like just so basically across the street from where the team store.
Yeah. Walk at the front door of the Bill store and to be on the other side of the street. Yep.
Okay, so parking's probably going to be a bit of an issue there for the next for the last few seasons. I'm calling it the Ralph.
It depends. I mean, it depends on how much of ECC Erie Community College, that campus they're going to consume. So obviously the county owns that property as well. Which, by the way, I had heard last year that the deal was already done. That's where the stadium was going. It was already kind of like long before they even announced it that was where it was going to happen. But they could end up putting the stadium in the grass out there in the grass field where there's not pavement, and it might not affect it. So you don't know.
So it's all just a wait and see, basically.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you answered all my questions on that, and then the only other point I wanted to get to with the stadium is I've also had one of my buddies on here who's a Bears fan tell me about their situation, how they want to move, but their situation's moving 40 minutes north of Chicago. Like that's why I was saying the whole Orchard Park thing. Like imagine they moved up to Niagara Falls to where a lot of the people like you who live closer to the stadium now, you have to make a trek just to get up to the stadium.
Yeah, spoiled rotten. So I live in Hamburg, and like literally the part that people don't realize, if you're going north or if you're going back to Canada after a football game, forget it. It's a long drive. Like there's only 2 roads out. It's a pain in the butt. For me, back to Southwestern, I park across the street and I take a right-hand turn on Southwestern. I hit 7 corners, and then I'm home in 10 minutes. Literally, the game ends, I'm home in 15, 20 minutes. It's not a problem. Niagara Falls makes a lot of logistical sense to me with the amount of fans coming from Canada. If you want to, if you wanted to bring those fans closer, shave a lot of time off their drive, not to mention Niagara Falls is Niagara Falls, and the idea of putting a stadium up there and maybe building around it makes a lot of sense. Downtown Buffalo makes a lot of sense too. Orchard Park for me it's from a spoiled Bills fan. Yeah, it's the best case scenario. I don't know that it's the best case scenario for the Bills and for the city of Buffalo. I think that if they had done a better job of planning around it and, attaching something to it, and hotels and restaurants like Foxborough, where there's like a mall there and stuff, and a reason for people to come down there, you do put a dome on it, and then it can be used in the wintertime on a Tuesday for whatever they want to use it for. Or like I said, conventions, whatever they want to use it for. The problem is now you're talking about that complex costing $2.5 billion, not 1.2, right? So, and you're displacing families and stuff like that. And I know they had a couple different sites. I'm not sure that it was done the best way. As a selfish Bills fan, I'm happy with where it's at. Would I have preferred to probably see it on the waterfront? Yes, it would have been beautiful. Like those night shots. And we're going to obviously we're going to continue to get a lot of primetime football games. So night shots, of the city and the skyline with the water, because Buffalo and the waterfront is beautiful and has the potential to be even better if they did things right, but they don't really do things right in this town. So,
and you also too, in the downtown, you have, not only do you have, for one, you're close to the Peace Bridge, number one, which would make probably getting to and from a game probably hell, but which I would probably if I were going, I would just boogie up to the Rainbow Bridge. But you have the arena, you have the downtown, which has really revitalized itself over the last 5 to 10 years. But you also have you do have the casino right there, which Seneca Buffalo Creek. So I could see it working. I could see Niagara Falls working. But I think more than anything, look, you want to more or less look at local. More, I know Canada's local, but I feel like for the Bills, I feel like it's more of a Buffalo thing than say the Sabres. Because I actually want to go off topic for you. I have a trivia I want to ask you. So you've obviously been to Sabres games.
Yeah.
Do you know why they do both anthems at Buffalo Sabres games?
I don't think it's just Sabres games, is it? Don't they do both anthems at several of the northern cities, like Detroit? I think they do both. I think Minnesota, I think they do both. They traditionally had done Minnesota, had done both. My dad always told me when I was a kid that it was just because hockey is a Canadian sport and there's a lot of Canadian players. Literally, that's what my dad told me when I was little.
Well, I know for the Sabres, they do it because actually 40% of the season ticket holders are Canadian.
Really? Gotcha. Yeah. Did not know. Well, even still, because a lot of them have given those tickets up.
Yeah. That has to do with border and everything else. I feel like once the team starts getting better and everything, that situation will get better too. Next topic is to get off stadium. We've been on it for a while. A lot of questions got answered and all that stuff. With the draft coming up next week, if I had to ask you, out of every position, obviously, look, you guys – wide receiver, like you guys are rich. Tight end, that contract's coming up soon. But what's a draft need you feel like that could really solidify this team? Because this Bills team has a lot that it needs. Like, you guys have a lot, but what do you think a position for the Bills is that you could really, beef up on, or really you need help with?
So there's a couple clear spots right now. I mean, for all intents and purposes, if the season started today, our cornerbacks are Cam Lewis and Dane Jackson. I like both those players, but they're not named Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White obviously tore his ACL in the Thanksgiving game last year, and who knows when he's going to be ready. I've always heard that an ACL is a year-long injury, 10 to 12 months. I've got people on my show that come into the comment section and they're like, oh, 6 to 7. And I'm like, I've never heard 6 to 7 for an ACL. And even if he is back at 6 to 7, he's not a quarterback. He's a cornerback, which is a completely different type of movement. So corner for me is the primary need. Inside offensive line, so interior offensive lineman, whether it's a center or a guard, is another one. Tight end is an interesting story because Dawson Knox's contract is going to be up after this year. I don't see Dawson going anywhere, but that doesn't mean that they don't need depth, right? So,
yeah.
They did just bring in another guy for depth, as far as in OJ Howard for depth, and he's coming off an Achilles injury. Achilles injuries are the kiss of death, in my opinion, for football players, especially skill players. They never really recover from them. So we'll see how he does. But corner, inside linebacker. Inside offensive line, linebackers potentially in need. This is also Tremaine Edmonds last season, or I should say of his contract, not necessarily last season as a Buffalo Bill. And then running back for me is a need. These guys, as much as I like Devin Singletary, as much as I like Zach Moss, and whether you want to blame it on, the offensive line coach from last year and Brian Daboll and scheme, or if you want to blame it on the running backs, there was just, between the three things that it could be, scheme, coaching, or talent, it just didn't jive, and has never really jived with kind of the guys they've had since the three. Now, Singletary came on at the end of the year last year, but there's still a little bit of a question mark, and this is actually Singletary's last year as well under contract. So running back is also a need. Where do you go when? I'm not a big fan of taking running back or wide receiver in the first round. There's a lot of people that feel the Bills need a wide receiver. I'm not so sure. There's a lot of people that just want to Diggs is, what is he, 29, or he's going to be 29, I think. So he's not exactly a spring chicken, but at the end of the day, you want to keep that kind of room rolling and kind of churning guys. But for me, it's corner, inside interior offensive line, linebacker, probably running back. Those are the four spots for me.
Exactly. There's a saying that someone once came on here and said, like, this is a kind of draft where you have to eat your vegetables before you can have your dessert. And I feel like if the Bills were to draft a wide receiver, they're doing the opposite of that. But if you're going for a corner, if you're going for, say, a center or a guard, or if you're going for a running back, which for me is the Bills' main need. Like I said, I like Singletary, I like Moss, but I think you just need a guy that, like a bell cow back there, that you can handle the ball, and hey, he's gonna get five yards, he can get a first down. Where I feel Singletary and Moss can be used, in the third down pass in the RPO scheme, where you can have them run you can have them run for a bit, but then also you can rely on the pass game for, say, third downs and stuff like that. If you have a third and long, and you don't want Josh to always be running the ball all the time, which we'll see what Ken Dorsey does with the offense, but that's the thing too with running back, and then even to offensive line, that's just a position where you can help. But I really like your thing on corner, just because you want a guy from this draft that's going to come in day one and make an impact. And corner is the position I feel like where you get a lot of guys with that. And I also like your little note on, look, an ACL for a quarterback's different. He can sit back in the pocket and just kind of do his thing. Meanwhile, with a running back, with a cornerback, you're all over the field. You're in the center. Yeah, Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, Saquon. It took him a year, and when he got back for the first 4 or 5 weeks, he was not himself. Like, he was not normal.
I'm going to go with a personal example too. Tom Brady in 2009, he didn't have exactly the best season in 2009. Then 2010, he comes back, and then he was the MVP. So that's my thing with it, where, look, you need that time to recover. And then also too, I would potentially look at safety, just because we don't know what the Jordan Poyer situation is going to be. As soon as I saw he went to Drew Rosenhaus, I was like, we know what Drew Rosenhaus's specialty is. And
we got some guys behind Jordan, whether it's Jaquan Johnson and DeMar Hamlin, that we're pretty high on. They've played at times well, I guess is what I would say. So as much as it's a need, I don't know that I'm going round 2 or 3 on a safety at this point. So, but we'll see.
Neither am I. I'm just saying, like, maybe, like a day 3 kind of guy, like a fifth, sixth rounder, kind of like take a flyer on a guy. If he works out, that kind of situation with the Bills.
Right. Right. Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting that you talked about running back as well, because a big piece of that is what you kind of started talking about which is Josh Allen. Josh Allen, there's people right now that are arguing on, I mean, Josh Allen is a media darling right now. He is the star of the NFL offseason currently. And it's wonderful to see as a Bills fan. This is something I never thought we would ever see. Wildest dreams land for us as Bills Mafia. But even with that, as much as Josh Allen can do it all, he's the first quarterback in NFL history to have 100 throwing touchdowns and 30 rushing touchdowns in his first 4 seasons, and the whole entire thing can go through him. Do you want to, right? Do you want to continue doing this for the next 10 years? How much do you want to shorten his career? Because at some point in time, it's not going to be ideal. It's going to, those hits, the biggest reason that Jim Kelly didn't play as long as John Elway is because he got the crap sacked out of him in Houston the first 2 years, 3 years that he was there. Like, he was destroyed because that offensive line was garbage and he was running all over the place and getting tackled. So limiting hits on Josh Allen at some point in time is going to become an important thing for sure. And a good running back, I mean, a really, really good running back helps that a lot. And it probably makes Josh more dangerous.
Exactly. So you can use him in those disguise plays where you don't expect, one of those plays where you think he's going to hand it off. Boom, he has a bootleg out to the left or right. Then he runs down, gets his trademark first down. That's a very excellent point. Speaking of media darling and everything, and I know I've seen you tweet sometimes about Good Morning Football and everything like that. But they had a question, and I want you to answer this both from a Bills fan perspective, but also an NFL generalist perspective. Do you think there's a quarterback this year in the NFL that has more pressure on him than Josh Allen, or do you think that he just has to continue doing him?
I think the most pressure on a quarterback this year is going to be Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrow, to be honest with you. From an AFC standpoint, I don't think there's that much pressure on Josh Allen at all. You're talking about a kid that didn't get recruited out of high school, had to go to JUCO, and then had one offer from Wyoming. And when he got to the NFL, it was 99 people telling him 15,000 reasons why he can't do it. And one guy, Mel Kiper, who none of us really like anyway, he's the only guy saying this is the guy. He's had so much to prove his entire, when you talk about 18 and not having a single wide receiver on his team, 9 of the 10 offensive linemen in front of him were out of football the next season, to 19, and then continuing that 50%, or not 50, but 58% completion percentage, and then making the jump in 20. So at 20 comes out and he's like this machine, and everybody going, he'll never do it again. There's no way he can do it again. And then 21, he comes out like, for me, if there's pressure on Josh Allen, he's not feeling it. He's like, meh. I mean, to me, I don't think of the pressure that he's had to feel. You're talking about a kid that he's from California. He loves
yourself kind of kid.
Yeah, he loves Derek Carr, right? And he goes to Derek Carr's football camp as a high school kid and gets put with the kids that aren't that talented. You know what I mean? Like that's his story. Like, no, you're not one of the good kids that get to throw the ball with Derek. You got to go stand over there with the other kids. Like, that's Josh Allen's story. So for me, pressure, I don't know how anybody could think that this is like where he crumbles. If he hasn't crumbled yet, it's not going to be here.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like, because my big thing too, and I agree with you on Patrick Mahomes, I think more than anything with him, it's not talent and losing Hill. It's, hey, are you worth the $45 million that the Chiefs gave you? Like, I know Josh's contract kicks in next year, but Patrick's won a Super Bowl.
MVP.
Yep. Only quarterback to beat, until this year, the only quarterback to beat him in the playoffs was Tom Brady. Sorry, I had to do it. I know. I just love
Josh Allen walked off the field twice a winner in that football game. He walked off the field twice a winner.
That he did. I like the Joe Burrow argument too, because look, I think everyone's going to expect Cincinnati to, like, hey, can you do it again? When a lot of the times in the NFL, and I'm saying this more importantly for our conference, because we all know our conference is loaded, and I got a question about another division I'll ask you in a minute.
Yeah, sure.
I look at this conference and I see 10 teams that could get 7 spots. I know there's some out there that there's going to be some teams out there that disappoint. There's going to be teams out there that do not get out of the gates hot, that everyone's thinking is going to,
you watch Good Morning Football. They did the AFC draft. They do an NFC draft and an AFC draft. So they basically go through the 4 of them and they draft who the best team is. So, right. So it's you pick a team, and they got down to the last 3 teams: Texans, Jaguars, Jets. Every team above them, you're like, could make the playoffs. Every team above them can make the playoffs, other than so there's 3 teams in the AFC that are bad football teams.
Yeah, like my I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but like, I even look at a team like Pittsburgh, where I'm like, okay, if they can get average quarterback play and the defense can steal them a couple of games,
right,
they could be in the mix.
Yep.
I know a lot of people think New England could fall off and everything, or Miami. We don't know what they're going to be. There's still going to be teams that are going to be in the hunt and they're going to be competitive, where in the wild card mix, or they can be on the outside looking in. And then you have Baltimore's going to be back this year, who Baltimore last year, most injury-riddled team in the NFL, completely was still in it up until Thanksgiving when Lamar got hurt. We don't know what Cleveland's going to be, so we don't know Cincinnati. And then you have and then Tennessee and Indianapolis, we'll see. But I have one team in particular for you. You know, I asked you the Josh Allen question about pressure.
Yeah.
Which AFC West quarterback, beside, like, I'm going to take Mahomes out of it because you obviously said him, but out of the other three, which one do you think is a team? Actually, I'm not going to say pressure. Which team do you think will disappoint out of the AFC West? Because I'm saying that because of how loaded that division is now. That's
tough. So the best thing that's going to happen is they're going to all beat each other up, right? So, you know, if I'm ranking those quarterbacks, I'm probably ranking them, and this isn't going to be like, people might not like this take. I'm going Mahomes, Carr, right from there, and then I'm probably going. No, I'm sorry, Mahomes, Herbert, Carr, Wilson for me. Those are the four. That's the list for me. Mahomes, Herbert, Carr, Wilson. The most pressure is going to be on Derek Carr, in my opinion, in that division, just because you go and get Devontae Adams, right? They've still got Josh Jacobs. They've got Darren Waller. They've got a great football team. The new head coach is going to be, you know, we all know what happens when NFL teams get new head coaches. It's, you know, there's a little bit of a period there where they have to kind of adjust. We'll see. It doesn't mean it's necessarily. Yeah, right. It's not like it's going to happen for sure, but it could. I love Cortland Sutton. You know, I love Javonte Williams. I don't know that I trust that Denver team. Also looking, you know, same situation, new head coach. I don't understand why. I don't understand why you're cutting Fangio go. Why you're cutting Fangio loose? Like he did okay. Why not give him a quarterback and see what he can do with his defense? So I don't know. So they're clearly making some changes there. But yeah, who's got the most pressure for me? Absolutely Derek Carr. And I like Derek Carr.
I think Derek Carr too, just because he also got that new contract that's going to take him to 2025 to where. And look, I know a lot of people try to recreate that. I think Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow also are going to cause this thing of, hey, he played together in college. That's where those like weird Kyler Murray and CeeDee Lamb rumors started going, where they both want to play together. Carr and Adams haven't played together since 2013 as well. When Burrow and Chase linked up, it was a year away from one another.
Yeah, so it was all there. Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say with Vegas. I feel like a lot of people are kind of like, this happens every year. There's a team that everyone drinks the Kool-Aid on. Mm-hmm. Most notably, one I'm going to give, and I completely avoided it, was the 2019 Cleveland Browns. You remember when they got Odell Beckham, and everyone was saying they're going all the way, they're going to win the North, and I'm like, okay, let's give them some time. Let's pump the brakes.
Yeah.
And then they got their asses kicked by the Tennessee Titans in that first game.
Yeah. I wasn't in on the Browns in 19 or 20. So yeah. Because even before 20, there was a lot of conversation about the Browns being better than the Bills, better than a lot of the teams that they just weren't better than. We'll just leave it at that. So yeah,
exactly. And I agree with you on Denver, just because, look, I was always on the Vic Fangio to get like fired train, just because I knew like Denver wasn't there. You know my take about John Elway drafting mediocre quarterbacks, and that's the only times you get franchise guys is going out and trading or free agency. Peyton Manning, Russell Wilson,
right.
But I just feel like too, also they gave up Noah Fant, which I think is going to be a really, really important piece they're going to miss.
Yeah.
And for me too, I think the kid Herbert, Herbert can just go out there and do his thing. That's more on how the defense does than anything else.
Yeah, he's a machine gun. He's a cannon. Like that dude can just sling the rock. I'm not sure, as much as he's got crazy arm talent, and he's got the stature and he's got the pocket awareness. I'm not sure that he's got all the marbles upstairs that somebody like a Tom Brady has and Aaron Rodgers has, or I would say a Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes has. But that kid has crazy talent, and I don't think he's going anywhere for a long time. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback for a very long time. Derek sometimes just has the opportunity to kind of dig a hole and jump into himself. Sometimes he just, I don't know why. I've got man crushes on. There's something about a dude that plays for a Pirate team that when you look through his face mask, looks like he's got mascara on, like he's got the black eye, like eyelashes. He just looks cool. And I don't know. I've liked Derek Carr since he came out, but that's just not because I thought he was amazing. I just have always liked Derek Carr, but yeah, he's got a lot of pressure on him.
He's a better quarterback than his brother, though. We can all admit that.
Well, that goes back to what I was talking about Josh Allen as well. I mean, he got the crap beat out of him the first 3-4 years of his career. Like, he got destroyed in that offense. They never protect. I think I'm about to say a record that I could very well be wrong. I feel like he holds the record for being sacked the most times in an NFL season, but I could be wrong. So,
I think you might be right, though. I think I've heard that one before, too.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, he was pummeled in that, in that offense. But, yes, better than his brother. Is he worth $40 million? No. If he's worth $40 million, Josh is worth 60.
Yeah, I've seen Raider fans basically being like, "Oh, like there was a poll that went out recently about best defensive ends in the NFL, and they were all like, "Oh, but where's Max Crosby and all this stuff?" Max Crosby's good, but he's not like, that top, like when you say top 3 guys. Like I'm gonna go either Bosa brother, Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, and then there's a couple other people that'll trickle down. And then you get to the Crosby tier. It's like the people too. Like I thought with Derek Carr, I know I'm going on different tangents.
You're fine.
But with Derek Carr, I always thought that this year was a prove it year for him. Like go out there, work for your contract. And then if you don't do well, that's when it makes it easier for the Raiders to get rid of him. Instead of now, if he's bad, you're stuck with that contract.
Yeah, for sure. And what was the extent? Was it 2 years or 3 years? It wasn't long. It was 2 years.
3. I think it was 3 years. I think it was 3 for 125 if all the guarantees hit.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder if how they've set him up. So one of the beautiful things about Brandon Beane and why he is considered one of the best executives in the league is he's always setting his contracts up to get even Von Miller. He can get out of Von in 2 years if he wants. So 4 years, 160 million, or was it 120? Whatever it was, 120, right?
3 of them are imaginary.
Yeah. 3. It's actually 3 years, 54, and he can get out in 2. So that's a. Yeah, so how they structure those contracts is a big deal, and that's how Brandon Beane rolls with everybody. Probably other than Josh, he can get out of him whenever he wants. I think he can get out of Diggs' contract if he wants to.
He did. Even the Patriots last year on their cuckoo. I know they went on their cuckoo spending spree and spent a lot of guaranteed money, but they backloaded a lot of their contracts to where the money in 2021 when the cap was only at 182.
Yep.
The guys weren't making a lot of money off basically just. It was a lot of bonuses and all that other stuff.
Yep.
They backloaded them so that when the cap money goes up, because after they announced all those contracts, guess what got announced next week was the TV contracts. And we know that once those kick in next year, and I know the Amazon Prime thing is not going to be a thing for a lot of that Gen X, people who aren't too familiar with technology, but
hey, I'm Gen X. Easy.
So you know what I mean? Older than you. Boomer.
My dad.
Yeah, exactly. People like your father and stuff, though, where they don't like when they. I believe though. So say if the Bills are on Thursday night, I believe. What we're looking for? The game will still be on in that market.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. As much as I'm sitting in a studio right now. I've been doing this crap forever. But even with that and being I work for an IT security company. So with all the stuff that I do that's technology wise, I'm peeved and annoyed right now because for whatever reason, it's the end of Rick Jennerett's career as the play-by-play announcer for the Buffalo Sabres, and the games for whatever reason that he's announcing right now, they're putting on ESPN Plus, and you have to stream it. I don't want to stream a hockey game. I want to watch it on my TV. Like I don't have an app on my television to watch, and so that's why you probably saw it. I put the tweet out there that ESPN Plus is just ESPN the Ocho. Like, can we just be honest? Nobody's watching ESPN Plus.
You're not the first person I've seen in the hockey community, whether it be on Twitter, TikTok, which is a value sense for a lot of where people gather to give their opinion. People being pissed off about how ESPN Plus and ESPN, the whole ESPN NHL deal has been handled. But with the NFLs, though, they're doing it to where you can watch, like, so say Sunday Night Football on NBC, who actually announced their commentary team for 2022.
I didn't see it.
Mike Tirico with Chris Collinsworth and the Melissa Starks doing the sideline. I thought it'd be Catherine Tappan, but it's not. That was per Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio.
I like Tirico a lot.
Yeah, I do too. But then that's the thing, though. What they're doing is they're doing it so the game will still air on NBC, but it will also be able to stream on Peacock. So that's what they're doing. So where it's basically making the options for you're able to watch it wherever. That's what they're trying to make it accessible for. And the only other one I've heard is the Apple TV NFL Sunday Ticket. But myself, I'm a red zone kind of guy. I'm loyal to Scott Hansen.
Yeah, I'm a red zone guy as well, and that's been the annoying thing. So I've been a Sunday Ticket subscriber forever since 2006 when I moved to Columbus, Ohio. And that's the annoying thing too, is like it's the games are in so many weird different places, and the way they restrict stuff. I ended up going to Columbus, Ohio for the Buffalo Miami game. I had a funeral that I had to attend, and I couldn't stream the game on my phone. Like I'm a season ticket holder. I've got the Sunday ticket. Like I think I paid for Red Zone at the time, and I couldn't. It was it's getting to the point where it's in so many different places that it's almost confusing to what game you can watch and can't. Whereas it used to be real easy. It used to be like if you're a Sunday ticket subscriber, as long as it wasn't on in your TV market, you could watch it any game. And now it's backwards. Now the only games you can watch are the ones that are on in your TV market. It's a little it's sketchy. So I'll be interested to see what Apple does with it if they get it. So yeah, DirecTV is gonna lose some subscribers. I'll be one of them. So yeah.
Oh, I can only imagine. And then the only thing I'm excited for with the Thursday night is the fact that it's Al Michaels with Kirk Herbstreit. So like,
did that get announced officially?
That's been announced officially. Al Michaels with Kirk Herbstreit. Yeah.
With Herbie. Wow, interesting.
Who's just also signed an extension with ESPN to do college. So he's literally going to go from whatever NFL city he's in to do game day, then to get on another jet, then go do a college game with Chris Fowler. So he's going to be making a lot of money. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Former Buckeye Kirk Herbstreit.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah.
Who I have his book over there, and I have read it, and it is a fantastic read.
Nice.
Football, fatherhood, and college game days.
That's awesome.
The only other thing I want to say to you before we get out of here, just so we're not prolonging the conversation. Obviously, we know I'm not going to talk about my team because look, we know where we are. We'll probably be the second. We're going to be second. We're the second darling right now.
You think so? The Dolphins don't scare you. I'm not a believer in Tua, but the Dolphins don't scare you at all. I mean, I'm not happy about the Devontae Parker pickup at all. So because Devontae Parker, he doesn't own the Bills, but he's the guy that gets 100 yards receiving every time he plays us, and we still throttle the Dolphins. But I don't like that. But the Dolphins have done some work.
They've done work, but I'm just saying that the same thing too. New coach.
Yeah.
With the Patriots, I'm still going to say us for second for now, just because I think we'll see what happens. It's more or less, I'll change my opinion probably in a week and a half. We'll see what happens in the draft and how those guys pan out and all that stuff.
Right.
But Miami too, my big thing is your quarterback, he calls them, is their father. That's the only thing I'm going to say. I think if Miami wants to have a chance at competing, they can't get swept by Buffalo because every year we know Josh Allen, and Dolphin fans know this. I'm gonna swear because it's my podcast. Josh Allen fucking owns them.
Josh Allen would be undefeated against the Dolphins had Charles Clay caught that football. People don't realize that. He's only lost the Dolphins one time, and it was because Charles Clay dropped a football in the end zone that would have won the game for him in 2018. Yeah.
I once had an autographed football of, actually. I won at a 7-1-6 day contest in Buffalo. I won a Charles Clay signed football.
As a Patriots fan, what'd you do? Did you throw it away?
I gave it to one of my buddies that's a Bills fan.
Oh, you're a nice guy. So where was
a month later he signed with the Cardinals, so it didn't matter.
What was the question in there? Was there a question in there?
I think it was just bar trivia or something like that. I was in Buffalo on the 7-1-6 day. I think it was
no. What was the question about just the division itself? Was there
more or less than anything? Like, obviously, we know the Jets are the Jets. I still think they're a couple years away, and I truly they need a beefed up offensive line to do anything. I know Jets fans this year think that they're going to be a 6-7 win team in the hunt. I don't see that. I think 6 is their ceiling, personally.
The Jets to me are there's teams out there that are just, as much as the Bills had a bad rap for not making the playoffs for 17 years. The Bills, won AFL championships. They obviously had the 90s teams. They've had times when they were a very good football team. The Jets won a Super Bowl with Joe Namath, and that's pretty much it, right? It's like the Lions. The Lions were good in the 30s. There's just teams out there that just aren't good. And I just don't know that I can buy into Zach Wilson and anybody that they've picked up and believe that Mekhi Becton all of a sudden this year is going to be really good. I'm just not there on the Jets. To me, if they win 4 games, I'll be surprised in this division.
That's why I said 6. That's why I said 6 was their ceiling, because I feel like if they can try to steal a game or two, but I'm pretty sure they went 0-6 in division last year. I know Zach Wilson I kept saying with Zach Wilson, I'm like, we played them the second game, and I said, okay, if they don't get an offensive line, this kid's going to get his ass kicked constantly.
And he did.
I think I was going to say too.
And we now have their best offensive weapon from last year.
I'm just trying to blank on who that was. Jets' best offensive weapon from last year.
Slot receiver, Jamison Crowder.
Right. Shit, I completely forgot about that. Oh, God, that is right.
We had their best weapon from last year.
So, I want to pump the brakes for that. So, Bills have Gabriel Davis, They have Isaiah McKenzie, who they just signed.
Re-signed, yeah.
Crowder, Diggs, and they still want a receiver.
Well, they've also got guys in the fold. I mean, they've got Jake Kumaro, who, is a special teamer that can play, that Aaron Rodgers loves. Isaiah Hodgins is a guy that came in when Isaiah Hodgins came in with Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis was drafted before him. I think Gabe was 3rd round. Hodgins was the 5th round or the 6th round out of Oregon State. And all the conversation from the media and the people in like the coaching staff was that Hodgins was the dude. Like, this guy is the guy. And then they had to shut him down because he had a shoulder injury from college. And then he got hurt again last year in preseason. They shut him down. And it was funny because I was talking to Isaiah about it. We were talking about last year. It's like, how do you even get into that room? There's 3 potential Hall of Famers in that room last year between Diggs, Beasley, and Emmanuel Sanders. Like, and then you got Gabe Davis coming on. And, oh, by the way, Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah.
So yeah, stacked. And they're still somewhat stacked, but getting younger is always a good thing. So having a guy rolling in and, that's kind of rolling. Yeah. So anyway, sorry about the rabbit trail.
It's all good. The only thing I was going to say about Joe Namath, and I bring this up all the time, is 2 things. One, he's only in the Hall of Fame because of that guarantee in the Super Bowl. Because if you look at his stats, he finished with 30 more interceptions in his career than touchdowns.
Yep. That's cute. Now do Troy Aikman.
I saw somewhere, I think it was an Eagles fan basically saying, I think Donovan McNabb had more career touchdown passes than Troy Aikman.
Troy Aikman won 3 Super Bowls, does not belong in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. He did not have the numbers.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, it's basically just because of the Super Bowl. I think with that, it's who he was around, the fact that, look, Michael Irvin, one of the best receivers of all time, Emmitt Smith.
The greatest offensive line ever put together.
Yep. And the fact, too, that it was the team that it was. If it's that fucking star we all love to make fun of, which, look, that's the one thing I think we can all agree upon is that death, taxes, and the Dallas Cowboys losing in the playoffs. Everyone takes joy in that because
love it.
Every year they always do this. They set themselves up for failure, and they don't see it coming. I will never forget the Thanksgiving game with the Bills in 2019, where you guys went in there and just completely dog-walked them.
Annihilated them.
On Thanksgiving in their own stadium.
Yeah, that was the game that Josh Allen made a lot of believers out of people when on that 4th and 1 or whatever it was when he was stopped, and then he was like, "I'm not stopped. You're not going to stop me." Yeah.
So just back to the point before was, that's what I was going to ask you more or less than anything. I'm going to leave New England out of it because we know, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But does Miami worry you, or do you think that they're a team where they got a lot of pressure to prove that they're right, or prove people right?
I mean, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Mike Gesicki. And Mike Gesicki always plays well against us. He plays well against most people. I mean, they've got a good football team. It's all going to come down to Tua. And I don't believe the Tyreek Hill statement of, when you've got that accurate of a quarterback that can get the ball out in less than 2 seconds, watch out. It's like, well, he's got to get the ball out. Even if he gets it, his release point is that quick. The reality is he's just, I don't know. If there's a quarterback with pressure, it's Tua Tagovailoa. He's the quarterback probably with the most pressure in the entire NFL right now because they've assembled a team around him. They've got a guru in there, for a head coach now. That defense should still be good, right? They've always had a pretty traditionally decent defense. So, and they've got weapons around him. It's just hard for me to buy into Tua. So I don't care. I don't follow a lot of Patriots fans. I follow a lot of Dolphins fans. I don't know why, but for some reason, Dolphins fans like me, and we kind of go back and forth in a nice spirited way. And they all
it's off Tua on now.
You're right. They're all in on Tua, and I'm just like, bro, I don't know what you're seeing. Like, and they always go back to like, well, don't you remember how you felt about Josh Allen? I was like, they look totally different. Josh Allen looks totally different than Tua looks right now. That's not a comp you can make, in my opinion. But
and it's one of those things too, where like how you said the Thanksgiving game, where people I think started after that game kind of saying, okay, maybe the Bills have something here with Josh Allen.
Right,
Meanwhile, no game last, and also too the fact that Miami had that weird season where it was like, okay, I still say week 1 we should have beat them if it weren't for the Harris fumble, but they went on that 7-game losing streak, and then they go on a 7-game winning streak. It's just the fact that they didn't beat anyone of note.
Right.
That's the big thing for me. They did not beat anyone noteworthy. I think if anything this year, the Dolphins don't want to schedule, because for the last 2 years, week 1 in New England, week 2 at home to Buffalo. I just think they do not want that again this year. No. So we'll see what happens. But for right now, I still have it as Buffalo, New England, Miami, New York. That's my four.
I can buy into that. I think Max still got some stuff to prove, and that probably hurts your feelings a little bit. It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how the new offensive coordinator treats him and what they try to do with him. Josh McDaniels. There's a lot to be said for Josh McDaniels. Yeah, and that's all I'll say about that. I'm not a big Josh McDaniels fan, but there's a lot to be said with what he's done right throughout his career with Tim Tebow. Right. Yeah. Didn't he have Kyle Orton for a while? I mean, just different guys that he's had. So obviously Tom and the work he's done there. And he had Matt Castle for 1 year, right? When Tom got hurt. So he's I mean, he knows what he's doing. So we'll see. But I agree.
I'm gonna go on my thing right now. I still think, because we went 10-7 last year, I still think that's a very reachable record once again, 10-7, because look, like we said, and also too with getting in the playoffs, just because,
or 9-8, because the Bills will sweep you this year.
Maybe. Did you go to that game, by the way, or no?
No.
I thought about it, but then I'm like, I thought about going to that, but I'm like, I'm sitting at home. I'm like, I am comfortable. I do not want to be there right now. My thing with the Patriots right now, my floor is 8-9. My ceiling is 10-7. That's where I'm at right now with them. They can finish anywhere in between there. It's just last year they stole some games last year, and even if they can have some of those losses, where you kind of like gotta take it on the chin, like the Dallas Cowboy game and the Tampa Bay Buccaneer game. If they can have games like that, and also too, I say this, give me a reason to be excited to watch them on Sunday and go into the game thinking they can win. That's all I ask for. I think, but I realistically though, I don't think 8-9 is going to happen. I think it's 9-8 or 10-7, unless Matt just takes that crazy second year leap, which I still think he does have some stuff to work on. I think the fact too last year also, I think 10-7 was a bit of an overachievement. I had them not missing the playoffs, but I was like, it wouldn't have shocked me to see them miss just because of the rookie quarterback. But the fact that he made it, and obviously look, the way it went, I say that was just 20 years of pent up frustration, like in the movie when the kid who gets bullied finally gets his one-up on the bully.
It wasn't just a playoff game. It was 2 weeks before that too. So
yes. But you know what I mean? It was specifically the playoff game. Right. The only thing I'll say about the playoff game is whoever played "We Are the Champions" in the stadium.
Yeah, that was weird.
No, I
remember when right before it cut to commercial, they had the score and it was they're playing. I was like, that's weird. Yeah, that was a little weird.
Like, don't piss off the sports gods like that.
It was definitely strange. I don't even think I commented on it on Twitter about it. I was just like, that's a little weird. Yeah.
I just saw Patriots fans going like, that's such a Bills thing to do. But I feel like the playoff win more than anything is the fact that obviously week 16 was week 16, but the fact that the playoff game happened the way it did, I think was just more or less of like, this is our division now. It was kind of like that just.
Yeah, there was the stamp. I mean, they were dotting the I for sure in that football game. It was, the Bills have now done twice to Bill Belichick what nobody has ever done, which is, obviously not punted on against him twice. So, which is pretty freaking insane. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the season goes with that. So, I've heard from the players that that's a tense week even still. So, even still, when the Bills are playing the Patriots, it's game face all week. There's no laughing, no joking. It's game face. So
that's what you want with a rivalry. That's exactly what you want with a rivalry.
Do you see the Bills Patriots as a rivalry? Even as a Patriots fan, probably not, right? It's the Dolphins.
More or less, like I can see you with the Bills and Dolphins just because that goes back to the 90s. I just see it as like, a divisional, like Buckheads kind of things, but I don't see it like how, Ravens Steelers is viewed, how Chiefs Raiders is viewed, how
the Dolphins rivals the Jets. It's not either of our teams. Like we're over here like squish the fish, and they're like, who are you? Like, we care about the Jets. Like that's who we want to beat. Like it's just it's weird. Yeah. When you think anybody in the West, right? So Raiders Broncos type of a thing, or Raiders Chiefs, or it's just
it's not Packers Bears.
It's not Packers Bears, right? Yeah, exactly.
It's like I think the Steelers Ravens is a perfect example because I've seen shirts before with like in Pittsburgh of Wheel of Fortune. It's like I like to buy a vowel, and it's like F blank CK the Ravens. That's also on my football bucket list to go to, is to see a Steeler Raven game in person.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, I just think it'd be a cool atmosphere to see that game as like a complete like just bystander.
Yeah,
where it's like you just like sit against like you just like sit back and you just watch them like, and also just because it's such aggressive football when they play.
If they're both good, you want them to be both. You don't want to be a stinker, right?
No, God no.
Yeah,
that's all. But like, that's just the one point I wanted to make. I think with the Bills and the Patriots, it's more about the fans making a rivalry than the teams actually do.
Probably.
I think it's just the teams. It's one of those things where it's like, a circle on the calendar. You always you look out for that game. I think it's more than anything like that. You always circle it on the calendar more than bragging, and also sort of bragging rights in a way, I guess, more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's, the Bills Patriots have been much like OSU Michigan, where head coaches are being fired because they can't beat the Patriots, right? Michigan coaches were getting fired because they couldn't beat OSU. So yeah, I think that's more what it comes down to. It's all business that week, just because, the Patriots owned us for a very, very, very worse than any team has owned any other team in 20 years. Like, it was just embarrassing. We were the red-headed stepchild. So yeah.
Which I feel like now one of those games will be on primetime again this year, or in that 4:25 CBS slot. Just the fact that more than anything else, it's the fact that I know the Bills are obviously the better team, but the fact that both teams are competitive, I think, is what's best for the division.
Yeah, for sure. No, it makes a difference. And for some reason, the NFL loves Buffalo in New England. They love Josh Allen in New England in primetime. So it's happened the last 3 years in a row.
Yeah, 2020. Well, I don't like to talk about that game, even though it both won me and lost me fantasy football because of the Stephon Diggs going off.
Right.
And then 2021 was the complete stinker of a game, which was Mac throwing the ball 3 times.
Yep. And 19.
People told me, 19 yards. People told me that game sucked. I just look at those games like I look at Super Bowl 53. I was
saying 19 yards. I was saying 2019 was the game where Josh Allen played a very good football game and then got beat. Like, you guys and the Patriots still beat us. So that was.
I think that was almost the game where Matt Barkley came back and beat us.
No, Josh Allen finished that game.
No, the one in Buffalo. The one in Buffalo.
Oh, the one in Buffalo. Gotcha. I don't know.
It was either 2018 or 2019. I think it was 2019. Someone completely leveled him, and I remember I was just like,
that was a home game. That was in Buffalo.
That was in Buffalo.
I'm talking about in New England primetime games, 19, 20, 21. Like, people love Josh Allen in primetime in New England. Yeah.
2021, actually, it was reversed. The game in New England was a 1:00 game, and then it was the Buffalo game was Monday Night Football. 2019, though, I know the game you're talking about. It was a Saturday. It was a Saturday afternoon one. I think Gilmore got a stop on 4th down to get the win.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's how I remember it.
Good football, and we're looking forward to some good football this year too.
And that's all we asked for.
That's right.
Well, anyway, folks, that's going to do it for episode number 164 here on YWC Football Talk.
That's a lot.
As always, presented by BetStamp, the official sportsbook sponsor of YWC Football Talk, guys. I will see you back for the live draft episode this Sunday night. Stay tuned to that. Joe, thank you for coming on once again. For all the Bills Mafia information, guys, to Joe, link is in the bio, and I'll see you guys next time.
Go Bills.